Black Flag Activity Report, Jacob Anderson. Okay, I was very hesitant about sharing this one with you guys for multiple reasons. One being that we're trying to keep these stories and videos PG so that we don't get punished by the platforms. And also, I don't want to make ourselves look like we're promoting violence to our viewers, okay? But these accounts, I believe they should be heard. And if it helps others in tough situations or merely entertains you, then so be it. Jacob had been out on bond out of St. Paul, Minnesota. His original charges were vehicle theft. Jacob was a carjacker. He would use a pistol during his carjackings and targeted women, people who would be less prone to fight back. In one of the carjackings, he had pistol whipped an older woman, fracturing her cheek and hospitalizing her. Guys, know this. If and when you get caught, the inmates you're locked up with are going to pull your records and see what you're in there for. It doesn't matter what you tell them, they will do it themselves just to know what type of person you are. There's a code of conduct in prison, and if you hurt women and children, the other inmates are going to find out and hold you accountable, which means they're going to target you, which means your life is going to suck. In many situations, the guards aren't even going to help you. So don't be a jackass and hurt helpless people. Not only is it not right, but you will face a day where you will become a target. Jacob had 6 kids in Minnesota and 2 in another state that he never saw. In fact, he had a restraining order enacted against him for one of his exes because of his violent behavior towards her and her kids. Jacob thought he was cool shit. Thought he was a player. He was the type of guy that tattooed a Playboy bunny on the side of his neck and an outline of kiss marks on the side of his cheek and thought that it was a dope-ass tattoo. Another side note, if you tattoo kiss marks on the side of your neck or face, the only thing other guys are going to think of you is that you're a huge pussy. Just my opinion. Let's move on. So Jacob was a woman beater, a deadbeat dad, and not the smartest of guys, leaving his children to be raised in hard conditions by other people because, he had better things to do, like show off his really cool tattoos. While out on bond in Minnesota, he had gotten a new girlfriend who had children of her own. She felt bad for Jacob and his kissy mark tattoo and had bonded him out of jail. One night, after finding out Jacob had cheated on her, big surprise, she confronted him and they got into an argument. Jacob stabbed her 8 times in front of her kids and stuffed her in a garbage can in the alley. He packed whatever things he had and left the house and children and ran to Arizona, where we ended up crossing paths. In less than a couple weeks, Jacob had hooked up with a new girlfriend in Phoenix who was helping to hide him. We had already identified the unit number of the apartment he was in and the vehicle that he was being driven around in. It was a 2002 Ford minivan. We decided we wanted the entire team out on this guy and that we would head out that night to go pick him up. We set up surveillance and watched the unit for a few hours, and sure enough, Jacob came outside to smoke a cigarette and do some laundry. Wait, let's clarify. Jacob's new girlfriend was doing the laundry, bringing it back and forth from the laundry room to the unit where Jacob smoked cigarettes and played video games inside. Yeah. After about 3 hours, Jacob's new girlfriend went outside and got into the van. She pulled it up to the unit and Jacob came outside and got in it. We all knew this was the opportunity we were looking for and communicated over the radios our next steps. There was a choke point next to the exit and we were going to block it in with the vehicles we were in and extract Jacob once the vehicle was stopped. Vehicle extractions are extremely dangerous and hard to pull off. It normally gives the person we are going after time to arm themselves or try to use the vehicle itself as a weapon. We typically will do our best to avoid vehicle extractions because of these issues. The vehicle pulled up to the choke point and 3 vehicles pulled up, stopping the vehicle. We exited and surrounded the vehicle in a hurried manner to mitigate Jacob's ability to act against us. It was my job to make entry on the vehicle and I happily took that role. I ran up to the side door where I had seen Jacob get into the van. He had left it unlocked. The windows to the van were tinted, so we couldn't tell if Jacob was pointing a gun at us or really what was going on inside, but there comes a time where you just have to accept that what you're doing is dangerous, and as I have said before, commit to your actions. So without hesitating, I pulled the handle and the door slid open. Inside the van was clothes and trash laying around everywhere, and on the seat directly in front of me was Jacob. Or Jacob's back, rather. See, he was turned away from me, and either retrieving something or burying something into the creases of the seat where the backrest met the seat. I didn't have time to care about which it was. I entered the van and shoved Jacob's hands down into the seat by the backs of his elbows to stop him from being able to pull his hands back out. Jacob tried to pull his hands out, but was unable to. After a brief tussle, I reached into the seat and I could feel the top frame of what I thought to be a pistol. I applied a grip which is called the Secret Service grip on Jacob's forearm and the one that was holding the pistol and pulled it directly into his abdomen. I had an underhook on his other arm, which coupled with the weight of my 260 pounds self on his back, kept him bracing himself on the seat with his other arm from getting squished into the window. There was a loud pop, and for a brief moment I had to regain my awareness because I thought I had been shot. The loud pop had actually been my partner breaching the van safety glass with his asp. Once I came back from my brief moment of fuck me, I just got shot, I was able to get him to let go of the gun after twisting the frame from his grips, but that's when the pistol went off. And at that point, I was already in fight mode and didn't even really notice that my hand had been ripped up from the slide that I'd been holding the pistol. The pistol was laying in the seat now, and Jacob and I were both trying to get it. I kept the underhook I had had on his arm so he couldn't grab it, and repositioned my entire body so I could pull him over the top of me using my hips and legs to knock the pistol to the floorboards. It worked. And I pulled Jacob over the top of me to the other side of the van's interior. However, Jacob was still frantically trying to retrieve the firearm from the floor of the van. He extended his arm fully, and that was my opportunity. I armbarred Jacob with everything I had, causing his elbow to make 3 very distinct popping sounds. Jacob yelped in pain and went limp, giving up the fight for the pistol. My partners at that point grabbed his ankles and dragged him from the vehicle, putting handcuffs on him and securing him on the side of the vehicle. Phoenix PD were called shortly after because there was a firearm discharged, and Jacob was transported to a local hospital where we sat with him until he cleared a couple hours later. My hand had been cut open from the slide on the firearm, but I wrapped it up and called it a day. I wasn't shot and neither was anyone else, and that made everything seem okay to me. Once Jacob was discharged from the hospital, we had already had a plane ticket in hand for him and took him to the airport for the flight back to Minnesota, a flight that I accompanied him on. The entire flight back, Jacob was silent and in a lot of pain. The hospital gave him Tylenol for his elbow and shoulder and put him in a sling. They were not going to give him narcotics given the fact that we had to take him across the country. Jacob and I were not happy with each other, knowing that we had just literally been in a fight for our lives together, one against the other. Jacob was dropped off with a Minnesota bondsman and taken to county jail, where he sat out the rest of his trial and eventually was sentenced. The mother that Jacob had injured ended up surviving the attack, but only because her kids acted fast enough by calling first responders. She spent a couple weeks in the hospital and is now back to raising her children, hopefully with a better male partner. Jacob was sentenced and sent to prison in Minnesota where he had committed the majority of his crimes. I later found out that Jacob was killed in prison by another inmate. He had gotten into a fight and it didn't end well for him. This was a tragic end to Jacob, but some people you just can't help. Always remember to do your best and care for other people and try to be a good person. Choose love over hate, and remember we are all one in this crazy place together. Thanks for watching.
These stories are real-life accounts of real people. It's never our intention to promote violence. We are professionals and act as such in the field. We do actually care about the people we pick up and treat them with respect. The names of all people involved have been changed in order to keep their identity from the public and safeguard their privacy. Oftentimes, we are picking people up at their own family's request to either keep that family safe from that individual or to secure their collateral from being seized by the courts or the bondsman, things like homes and vehicles. Once again, we do not promote violence of any kind, and we do believe our world would benefit from more love being in it. So be respectful and always do your best to care for others. Thank you for watching.